I was asked to do a video about some of the books I would suggest for people getting into the Jewish question. Now, there's, of course, tons of books that can help you get understanding on the Jewish question. But when we have a limited amount of time, here are, I would say, my top 4 or 5 books on the Jewish question. First, as an honorary, like 5th one, I'm just going to lump in a bunch of Jews writing on Jews into one category. Because anytime you can get books like You Gentiles by Maurice Samuel or The Gentleman and the Jew by Maurice Samuel, you can get an understanding of the Jewish Gentile dynamic coming from their perspective as well. Same with books like Sex and Character by Otto Weininger. Then you have Jews that go into like The Power of AIPAC. Right now, one of these Democratic females had spoke out of line or out of turn about Israel and financing of or why there's so much support for Israel amongst American politicians. Well, lo and behold, you can see it for yourself in books like The Israel Lobby, books like Jewish Power, in books like They Dare to Speak Out. All 3 of these books go into AIPAC, their power, their importance, and their persuasive power amongst politicians because of, the funds. Or as she said, the Benjamins. So yes, that topped with Christian Zionism or Christian, Judeo-Christian bootlicking of Jews. That aside, yes, the impact and the effect of the Israeli lobby is very strong. So I'll check out any of those kinds of books. Then we have books like Unclean Lips or Unheroic Conduct, which go into, the more feministic kind of mentality of the Jew and even the Jews' base and even monopoly in the pornography field. But, okay, all that aside, we can go on and on and on about everything that is great to dig into when we're dealing with the Jewish question. But let's get to my top favorites, or not my favorites, but the ones I believe, if you're only going to read a few books on it, it might as well be these. The Track of the Jew Through the Ages by Alfred Rosenberg. This book, why this is on here is because it is what it says. It is a track of the Jews through the ages, very well sourced, and paints together a picture that kind of expresses and highlights how the Jews have, from their nomadic past, remained collective, traveled place to place, and gained power. So yes, The Track of the Jew Through the Ages. Which I'll eventually do a video on. The Jews and Modern Capitalism by Werner Sombart, which I have done a video on. I think this is very important for the fact it's very well sourced, but on top of that, it also paints the picture of how Jews stay as a group and kind of, I don't want to say infiltrate, but subvert the host populations through nefarious behavior that, there used to be like a gentleman's rule that the majority didn't act like, certain ways when selling and when dealing with money. And they threw all that to the side. And this book highlights that, highlights their rise, their predominant rise in the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries. Well, next, let's go to Judaism Discovered by Michael Hoffman. Now this is more of a looks at it from the religious perspective. So For everything Talmud related, this would be your book. Everything wants to dive into the religious aspect and the, I guess, the natural friction that would arise between Christians and Jews. It'd definitely be found in this book, which serves not as a book to read front to back, or you can if you so choose, but as you see, it's quite the read. So I've always used it as a source guide. I'll just, whenever I have 20, 30 minutes to kill, I want to knock out a chapter of something, and interested in a topic like genocide advocated by the Talmud, and boom, we can go right to page 438 and get into that. So as you can see, it is filled with many of the teachings of the Talmud, and it's kind of exposing them and putting them out there for people to see. So the X-rated Talmud, talking about some of the lewdness that's in this religious work. So yes, like ritual murder. So if we wanted to see ritual murder, which is that 555. So we go. $555. We get into the topic of ritual murder. An in-depth explanation of where these come from. Is it true? Did cases like this actually happen? So yes, this is a great book to dive into those kinds of topics. Very well sourced. Last but not least, I would say if you had one book to read, Jewish Supremacism by Duke. Now I know during the kind of the rise of the alt-right, cultural critique got real popular, but to me that's a very dry read, especially if you already kind of know the themes. It's like very redundant. Why I liked Jewish Supremacism so much is because it is not a dry read, first off, and it goes into numerous different aspects of the Jewish question, especially in the modern context. And it is very well sourced. Sources all throughout the back of the book, just so if people, would say, oh, this is all anti-Semitic, they're just pulling this out their ass. No, not at all. Very well sourced. And in detail about numerous different aspects of the Jewish question. It can kind of be like your little one-stop section for getting a quick education on the Jewish question. So I don't know, some people might be put off by the author, but it is very, like I said, very well sourced and searched. Easy to digest. Let's see, as we get into all topics, especially as it becomes to affect Americans. So yeah, that would be it. Those would be my top books to get into on the Jewish question. They give you kind of the trail in history, their involvement in capitalism and their promotion of it, why so many of the people promoting that ideology today comes from that tribe, their religious hatred of non-Jews fully expressed, and the way they consolidate power and the way they use it, and why it's not a good thing, why it has not benefited us. So there you go. Those are some good books for bad goys.